In this video, I want to make a woven wall hanging with a lot of color, a lot of texture, and just generally feels really fun. So let's get started. I have been so inspired by color palettes in modern quilts lately, and this color palette was heavily inspired by a quilt by Holly Clark Design. I definitely recommend checking out her work. Her handle is Hold My Seam Ripper on Instagram, hilarious, and her work is filled with beautiful color palettes and pattern. Peep the new Spruce and Linen flat pack frame loom. We are now making our flat pack frame loom from 100% recycled acrylic, and we've made some improvements. It's now 10 millimeters thick, which is almost twice as thick as the old design, and it is adjustable. So you can bring that top notch bar down for smaller projects like mug rugs, and it has legs. I repeat, it has legs. I'm so proud of this leg design. I know it's simple, but I have been trying to figure this out for so long, and these will still be made by us being me and my husband Cody in Canada. If you want to check out the new and improved flat pack frame loom, you can visit spruceandlinen.com or click the link in the description box below. Even though I love these legs, I will be weaving flat on the table as usual for this video because it really does give you the best view of what I'm doing. You'll notice this piece already has the warp and the fringe on it, but I will link a tutorial for how I start every weaving here as well as in the description box below. But for your reference, I used 4/8 cotton warp string, single warped a total of 32 warp strings, and for each bundle of fringe, I used 1 strand of 5mm recycled cotton string and 2 strands of 2mm recycled cotton string. And I also kind of purposely cut these random to try something less than perfect on the bottom. Before I even start, I just want to mention that you can find a tutorial for every stitch I use in this video in our 6 must-know stitches for weavers video, and I'll link that at the top right here as well as in the description. To start off, I'm using a piece of this beautiful olive merino wool roving, split in half to kind of make it go further and be a little less thick, and weaving it in over 2 warp strings, under 2 warp strings. So essentially just plain weave. I'm only going partway across the loom, and then I'm turning around and heading back the other direction so I can start to create an organic shape. I'm also pulling up the merino everywhere it's going over top the warp strings to create some extra texture. Then I realized I should probably figure out how tall this weaving needs to be, so I pulled out my dowel I'll be hanging this from and creating a lark's head knot with some warp string so I can figure out how much length I need to leave at the top of my warp in order to do that. In this case, it's 3¼ inch long. And my dowel is 3/4 of an inch thick. As seems to be the theme for me in pieces like this, I changed my mind almost immediately about the green roving, and so I'm adjusting it a bit to be slightly more arch-shaped at the top. It just felt right. I'm also annoyed with the loom sliding around on the table, so I'm taping it down as usual, but dang, I feel like I'm gonna need to find a prettier tape now that the loom is clear. Next, I'm weaving in some cotton frizz ribbon in this light blue color, once again, just with that over 2, under 2 plain weave. There's really no rhyme or reason for this specific shape I'm choosing to weave this in. I find when creating this type of piece, the process is usually just weave something in, seeing how it feels, and then continuing forward. I also never tuck in the ends as I go because I know there's a decent chance I might want to go back and unweave something at some point. For the third section, I'm using this super bulky merino wool yarn to create slip knot loops, piling them on top of each other to make this really fun texture. The nice thing about slip knot loops is that they are adjustable as you're tying them. So you can make the loops really long, or you can do them shorter like I am, depending on how dramatic you want the texture to be. After each section, I typically spend a little bit of time staring at the piece, looking at my materials, and even setting different materials on top of the warp just to see how they might look with everything else. I'm going with this chartreuse super bulky yarn next, but since it's essentially the exact same yarn as the last section, and it's going to be touching the other yarn, I'm weaving it in with a double sumac stitch to switch up the texture. I'm also weaving this partially over both the pink and the blue sections. Because I want this piece to feel really organic, I'm purposefully not weaving each material in the same size or shape, and I'm not stacking them in line with each other. I'm letting them overlap. You can think of this as a flower garden design versus a vegetable garden design. Usually vegetable gardens are going to be very linear and organized by plant type, whereas a flower garden is going to look more natural, having different types, colors, heights, and textures of flowers next to each other, staggering each one so it looks like it somehow naturally occurred that way. For the fifth section, I'm using this light peachy color to add some more slip knot loops, and I love how this spiral plied yarn looks when used this way. It has me thinking I should really try using some of my hand spun spiral plied yarn to do the same thing sometime. Next up, I'm taking some 3mm single plied string, doubling it up, tying a bunch of knots in it, and I'm using over 2 under 2 plain weave to add yet another type of texture to the piece. Now, here's where I got a little bit stuck. I wove in this darker pink roving and it just didn't feel quite right, but I decided to keep going anyway, adding a khaki green cotton frizz ribbon to bring some more depth and earthiness to the weaving. Then I had a bit of a hard time figuring out what should come after that. I laid out a bunch of different options trying to figure out what didn't feel right and what might look better, and then I landed on bringing back the chartreuse double sumac. Then I swapped out the darker pink for orange roving. I was a bit unsure about that at first, but adding in this orange did bring me closer to the original color palette inspiration I had, and ultimately, I really didn't want pink to be the main color in this piece, and since I already had the pink yarn, it just felt like a little bit too much for me. From here, I started to repeat the colors and textures more, doing my best to create a balanced but not symmetrical look. This isn't a perfect analogy, but the way I wove this piece reminded me a bit of quilting in the sense that I kept using the same stitch with each color / material. So it's almost like I took 8 different fabrics, chopped them all up, and then stitched them back together. Since the light peach yarn was the thinnest yarn I had incorporated into the weaving, I felt like it made sense to use it at the very top to finish off the piece, doing a couple rows of plain weave and ending with a twining stitch. And I did break my own past rule with the top of this one as well. Usually I say to start a new piece of yarn when doing the twining, because sometimes when you turn around to do the twining stitch, it can cause the side to draw in, but I decided to do it anyway and to just be careful to not tighten it a lot, and it totally worked. We're on to finishing now, and wow, was this a bit of an overwhelming mess on the back. I have a whole tutorial on how to tuck in ends, so I will link that here. I started with the roving first. Since it is the chunkiest material, it's kind of nice to get that out of the way so things start to look tidier faster. Makes it a little bit less overwhelming. Then I moved on to all the yarns and strings. Sometimes I stitch them in, sometimes I knot two ends together. Is there a rhyme or reason why I do one versus the other? Not really. It's literally just whatever I'm feeling in the moment. Now we're on to the finishing touches. I knotted the bottom warp strings, sewing them back into the weaving. I added my dowel with lark's head knots. I attached a hanging string, and I am cleaning up the fringe a little bit at the bottom. I let it be more uneven to try something different, and I do think it works well for this one. It's all done. Let's have a look at the finished piece. Okay, colorful, fun, lots of texture. I'm very happy with this one, and if you enjoyed this video, check out this one next.